big breakthrough in golf was back in '95 when the first titanium drivers came out. And then we were just grinding away at making better and better titanium for roughly 20 years, right? And pretty much came to the point where we couldn't go any thinner on the titanium. We're down to 0.5 millimeter thick. That's when we made the decision to finally switch over to this composites technology that we've been working on for over 10 years.
And even in the new M1, you know, we're going from what was 7-layer composite now to 6, which is obviously a little bit lighter, but just the way those layers are designed, I think is pretty unique.
One of the things we did is we not only took the weight out of the crown, but we also wanted to save more weight on the rest of the body, like we'd done with titanium when we went to thinner soles, right? So we're all about finding the weight, and so we've now put in this sole panel, which saves an additional 3 grams on top of the crown saving. So by the time we're done, you know, we're up to 11 grams of total savings when you combine that, you know, with a new titanium alloy called 911 that we're using as well. So, you know, we've taken that 11 grams and basically done a lot of things with the club.
Ultimately, everybody's swing is a little bit different, and their goals are a little bit different. But having the technology in the new M1 and the T-Track and having 27 grams of weight, being extremely intuitive to enhance a player's performance through the back track, which is high to low and fade to draw on the front track, with 27 grams of weight to move around and move the center of gravity, get those different ball flights, I think is just huge in itself. But the advancements in the new one is the 2 extra grams that we freed up to put in the back track, and then the extra 13 millimeters of length in the track. So now you can not only move more weight, but move it in a longer distance. So you're increasing the ability to get the proper launch conditions, the high launch, low spin for distance. While at the same time, the inherent forgiveness and the inertia that we've been able to unlock through this longer track and bigger head is going to benefit everybody.
Adding extra weight to that front back track gives us 64% more adjustability on the front to back positions, which really allows you to tune in the amount of spin that you want on your shot. So while M1 was almost out and right on the money in its normal position, it wasn't as adjustable to cover a wider gamut of swing types.
That's actually one of the things I'm most excited about for the new M1. You know, in the original M1 line, original M2 line, I always battled between forgiveness and spin. I'm a low launch, high spin guy. I'm a hard guy to fit. Now with this longer track, you know, I know I'm going to be in the M1. I'm going to get that range of adjustability. I'm going to be able to find that shaft that fits me, and I'm going to put the CG where I need it to optimize my ball flight.
When we first looked at improving upon the original M1, we wanted to get bigger in terms of address and face. So the difficulty with that is, compared to M1, we're kind of constrained on volume. Another key was we wanted to get our airflow a little bit better, our aerodynamics a little bit better, and having carbon on the sole kind of allowed us to push down this toe area, which gave us a little extra volume to be able to add back in to make this back track a little bit longer, which can affect launch. So pushing this down kind of helped us twofold. We're able to save a little volume, and having the carbon panel, we don't take the center of gravity hit and pushing it down. Normally you'd want everything low. But it also helped in directing airflow in terms of aerodynamics. A lot of people think airflow comes in straight from the head and kind of shoots off, but the golf swing is pretty dynamic. It's moving through, the head's rotating at different angles through the swing. So with this front wing here, we're able to keep airflow straight and going directionally in the way we want it.
Using the new material technology and adjusting the geometry gives us that extra mass, and we want to use that in the best way possible. And there's a series of complications that come along with changing the geometry, which are really reflected on the inside. When you start poking holes in things, you need to preserve the rigidity of that structure to make sure the sound that the golfer is looking for is preserved. And a lot of golfers don't know that what the inside of the club looks like is a really complicated, almost lattice organization that we put all these in here. And these are all designed iteratively and optimized to use that mass in the most efficient way so the ribs are as light as possible while still hitting the sound targets that we want in this club. And the driver especially is a very demanding product in terms of how it sounds. You definitely know when it doesn't sound right. So we iterate and spend a lot of time on that and did the most efficient rib structure we could to get to that sound.
The end result is when we do our player testing, and we have our panel of testers, and they rate this year's product versus last year's. And when we see that we're winning week after week when we test that on sound perception, that's the end goal.
One of the biggest breakthroughs that I think that, I don't know if any golfer is going to have an appreciation for, but I know all of us sitting around the table have a huge appreciation for it, and we call it an FF to FF, that final finish to final finish. With this new FF to FF process, having that consistent look from head to head, everyone coming out, looking perfect as opposed to the hand masking with the 6 layers of paint, that is a huge improvement because we know that white and the black contrast has a big effect on performance. But even on the durability side, and especially in your world of manufacturing, like what were some of the things inherent in a multi-material construction when you're painting over those joints?
In the original M1, when we painted over the joints, you never create a perfectly flush surface. So when you paint over that, from head to head, you'll see what we termed ghost lines. And in the right light, typically in the late afternoon rounds, early morning rounds, you could see where that bond joint was and met with the carbon in the casting. You had the possibility of having cracking in the paint if that bond joint wasn't set up just perfectly. There's inherent manufacturability variation. It's something that we had to change the construction methodology to overcome.
When a golfer picks up a golf club, obviously it needs to perform first and foremost, but we often talk about one of our other products' tenets is that, the form part of it, that people fall in love with it and sort of get emotionally attached to it. And that's something that doesn't come on a spreadsheet. That is a really difficult thing to put your finger on. And to do it in concert between the functional elements of it, I think is the fun part of what we do, and something that I think sets us apart from the rest of the equipment in the industry.
Like form follows function, very simple and clean here. For aero, as Chris talked about earlier, a little aero feature here. It's just not there for looks, it's there for performance. And then highlighting even the finishing around the carbon panel, how it's a lighter finish than the black is around the head to really pop that panel, to make sure at retail people see that, hey, that's a new feature as opposed to the old M1, which is pretty much all black on the sole. And then, of course, the green color, something different. We had gold last year, it's green this year. Something that stands out, again, looks new. It's a refinement to M1, but at the same time, it's all new.
You see how much time the team spends on performance, and for me, it's got to look just as good as it's going to perform. It's got to be that whole package. And there's something about this new M1 when you set it down and it just looks fast. It's a beautiful club. All the subtleties on the sole, the crown, the bond gap is very, very tight. We have an extremely tight control over that gap because when you set it down, you don't want to see some additional material there. You don't want to see a wide gap. It's not precision. Right. This is the highest end at both performance and at the cosmetic level.
I've been making clubs here at TaylorMade for 22 years, and when you look back on it, each product that comes out is you got to make better than the last one. But one of the challenges is we've made almost every feature, every aspect of this new M1 better than last year's, which was a great product. And it takes just a really strong team of experienced guys that really know where to move the dials. Because a lot of times if you want to make it better, higher moment of inertia, you hurt your aerodynamics, right? Or if you want to make a lower CG projection, you get a lower moment of inertia, right? So all these things are competing against each other, and that's been kind of the challenge to the team is we want to move in the right direction on all those parameters at the same time. And that's the thing, is you can go find any other product in the past or currently on the market that might be, it's got a little bit lower CG, but then it's given up on some of those other things. And that's really the challenge to the team that they stepped up and delivered on this product.